Good morning, everybody. I had to check, were you actually talking about me there? Yeah, so does anybody want to guess what my two world records were? I don't hold them anymore. World's best beard? No. Finland's most sarcastic man? Yeah, that's really funny. No, the first was world's largest birthday card, which was about 5 meters tall, and that was a real buzz. Had its own stamp, had its own envelope. We had to deliver it. And the second was world's biggest Irish dance. Yep, led by no other than the Lord of the Dance himself, Michael Flatley. But anyway, let's talk about something a bit more serious now. My name is Kevin Deegan, and I lead Global Consumer Insight in Valio here in Helsinki, Finland. My Twitter handle is there. It's pretty cool, right? Super Duper Kev. Every Super Kev was taken, Super Kevin was taken. So feel free to tag me in your tweets, if you please. And I'm going to talk about two different things. One of them, first, is a rant, which I'm known for. And the second is a more interesting case study from China. So a little bit about Valio, for those of you who don't know. This is our goal, to be the most innovative dairy and food company in the world. We're not the biggest dairy company. Our good friends Arla are about 10 times bigger than we are. So we have to be smart. And as we move out into the world, we really are a small fish in a big sea. Valio was founded in 1905 by Finnish dairy farmers with the intention of exporting fantastic butter around the world. And the first market was the UK. So we're celebrating 115 years of existence this year, which is actually older than Finland herself. A great thing about work, and it sounds cheesy, excuse the pun, but Valio is a cooperative. So our owners are the 5,100 dairy farmers across the country. And so much so that our main success KPI that we follow on a daily basis is the price per liter of milk that we can pay to our owners. So it's a pretty clear and, in my opinion, pretty noble purpose. We just so happen to be situated in Finland, which is known worldwide, has a great reputation as being a place of innovation. Finland is always, whenever it's mentioned in the news internationally, is almost always positive, except for things like tax and things like that. But that's really a USP when we move out into the world. Quality, safety, and innovation. Fun fact, 1945, our director of laboratories, A.I. Virtanen, was awarded the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. So we are the only dairy company in the world with a Nobel Prize, which is kind of cool. And apart from that, that spirit of innovation really lives on. The beating heart of the company is our R&D in Pitäjänmäki, which currently employs about 150 people. And it's that innovation, it's that getting every single drop of milk literally used, which is allowing us to move into the world a lot more. Every 20 minutes, a container of our products leave the country for export markets. We're the largest food company in Finland and also the largest food exporter from Finland. Obviously, let's not avoid the elephant in the room here. We are well aware of the environmental effects of milk production, and we want to be driving the change, and not just a cynical compensation change in terms of reducing carbon, but by becoming carbon neutral and even, in fact, carbon negative by 2035. And this change has to be sustainable. It has to be long-term. We could compensate, like some other companies are doing at the moment, but we hold such a special place in the countryside of Finland, in the culture of Finland, that we owe it to this country and to our owners and to the countryside to make a real sustainable change. So, first off, my promised rant. Big data. the promise of big data. So over the last 5, 6, 7 years, there's been billions and billions of euros, dollars invested around the world by companies in big data, with the promise that it's going to solve everything. And it has the potential to do that, don't get me wrong. But what we are seeing is a bit of a disconnect between the data itself and the end users of the data, the stakeholders. Data scientist as a profession was noted in 2012 by the Harvard Business Review as being the sexiest profession of the 21st century. And if there are any data scientists in the audience, I guess you feel pretty sexy about yourselves. But what we are seeing is that we're putting all of our investments, all of our time, and all our development into that initial stage, the big part. And simplistically speaking, the central tenet of big data is more is better. The issue here, the challenge for us, was summed up fantastically a year ago in the Harvard Business Review by Scott Berinato, who's a data visualization guru. And I would really recommend anybody involved with data in any way. And it's not a technical article, it's very, very readable. And what he said was that he hears both data scientists and executives venting their frustration. Data teams know they're sitting on valuable insights, but can't sell them. They say decision makers misunderstand or oversimplify their analysis and expect them to do magic to provide the right answers to all the questions. Whereas the executives, the end users, complain about how much money they invest in data science operations that don't provide the guidance they hope for. They don't see tangible results because the results are not communicated in their language. So what we're seeing here is a tension, essentially. A tension between technology and business, between numbers and decision-making, between data nerds and business heroes. And this is nothing new. This is something that surprised me. Back in 1914, 1 year before Valio was formed, Willard C. Brinton, who is known as one of the fathers of data visualization, in his book, Graphic Methods for Presenting Facts, wrote the following, almost 115 years ago. Millions of dollars are spent in the collection of data with the fond expectation that the data will automatically cause the correction of the conditions studied. Though accurate data and real facts are valuable, when it comes to getting results, the manner of presentation is ordinarily more important than the facts themselves. As the cathedral is to its foundation, so is an effective presentation of facts to the data. That's pretty mind-blowing. 1914. Has a lot changed since then? The underlying issue, the underlying challenge, in many ways, is quite similar. So, our basic challenge here is that we have data and we have the end user. We're putting our investments, our time, our developments into the first part of the process and forgetting that in order to get it to the end user in a way that is applicable and understandable, it's very difficult, essentially. So what can we do about it? Well, one thing is to remember that data scientists are not the same as the people who are making decisions at the end. If we take this back to a people level, people are different. People have different backgrounds, different mindsets, different ways of thinking. People's minds work in a different way. So to expect that somebody who is analytically talented, who can take complex data sets, analyze them, integrate them, and produce visualizations from them, is the same, or has the same type of understanding as somebody who has very concrete daily decisions to make about corporate strategy, about launches, about consumers, for example. That's a bit of a fallacy to believe that that could be the same person. Now, it could be, and if you find somebody like that, you should hire them. But in the overall sense, it's a team effort. It's kind of boring, but that's the case. And it requires a lot of different types of skills. Analysis goes without mention. But what's something we forget a lot is subject expertise. Now, that could be an understanding of the business, an understanding of the bigger picture, somebody who can take a step back and look at, okay, what do we need to know here? What's nice to know, and what do we need to know? Somebody who can manage projects, obviously. Design is funny because the democratization of data visualization, which, for example, everybody can make a graph in Microsoft Excel, is not necessarily a good thing, because we do see a lot of crappy graphs emerging from something like Excel. So the chart wizard option, while making it easier, is not really making it clearer. So we've forgotten the design element of data visualization. How can we present our results? How can we break down the data into a form which is understandable and visual? Implementation requires an understanding of what this means to my decision making. Quite often, there is a tension between people who are deep in the data, deep in the methodology, who are very fundamental in their understanding and usage of data and methodology, and the end user who wants it just broken down into simple terms. It could be seen by data scientists, for example, as dumbing down. But unfortunately, or fortunately, decisions need to be made based on easy insights. And something that I think that is really overlooked when we think about how to use data is storytelling. When we keep all of these things together, and when we bring all of these skills, and as I said, it might not be one person, it is quite often a team effort, only then can we make the data connected to the business decision-making at the end user. And I like to term this whole thing as insight. So my mantra that I use on a daily basis, and those who work with me get pretty sick of me saying this. If data are words, insights are stories. And if you want to take a photo of this and tweet it and make it go viral, please, that would be lovely. But that's something that we need to remember. The world is full of information, the world is full of words, the world is full of numbers. But what means something to us, what's relevant to us, and what's understandable to us are stories, are songs. So how can we take what's available and make it into something that's an insight? And what is an insight? It's something that is actionable, relevant, and understandable. Rant over. Okay, so I'd like to show you an example of social commerce, which is something that we've been using in the Chinese market. Valio has been in China since 1991 on the B2B side, providing industrial ingredients to, for example, the milk formula market, confectionery. Since 2018, we've had a consumer goods organization, and main products at the moment are milk powders, and ice cream, actually, from Olu. Imagine that. Valio, when a Western brand goes to China, it's a good idea that they have a localized translated name. The translated version of Valio is Wayo. Apologies to any Chinese in the audience if I pronounce that incorrectly. And in a kind of a bastardized way, it means blue quality, which probably sounds better in Chinese. But like I mentioned, one of our biggest products and worldwide, Valio is known for lactose-free. So lactose-free milk powder is one of our major products here. We're actually currently market leaders in the lactose-free milk powder. Woo-hoo. And funnily enough, it's not the sexiest product. You might be surprised, but I think it depends how you use it. But in general, not pretty sexy. Even if you put a little hat on it, it doesn't really work. So we're a small fish, and we're a very, very small fish in a very big Chinese sea. And we have a very relatively complicated functional product. So we need to break through. How do we do that? Well, I'll tell you. Just a very, 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 very quick overview of the social media and commerce market in China. WeChat is used by 1.15 billion Chinese on a daily basis. Statistics from last year say on average 2 hours a day. I think that's incredibly underrepresentative of the amount of time that people actually spend on WeChat. WeChat is used for everything. It's not like WhatsApp is a messaging service. WeChat, you can do anything. You can pay for something, you can reserve a table, you can shop. It knows everything about you. Everything about you. In terms of e-commerce, Taobao is the biggest e-commerce platform. Jingdong, JD.com is the second. It's just fallen a little bit below Pinduoduo, which is now growing more and more. Pinduoduo is very interesting because its roots are in lower tier cities. So in China, we have this tier classification of cities. So tier 1 cities would be Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing, and I can't remember the fourth one. But it's essentially in terms of development. Lower tier cities, of which there are lots and lots of very, very big cities, are more favoring Pinduoduo because it's about savings. They can offer about 20 to 30% savings over the other e-commerce platforms. But the thing about Pinduoduo is it's a team purchase app. So the more people that come together and purchase, the cheaper the prices get. And that's important. Click. You may or may not have noticed this in Maaseuden Tulevaisuus last year. If you're not talented in Finnish, I'll translate it for you. Chinese celebrity sells 20,000 boxes of Valio milk powder in 3 minutes during a live broadcast. The celebrity in question is known as a KOL. Doesn't mean Kings of Leon, but key opinion leader. And it's essentially an influencer. And live sales, true live streaming is massive in China at the moment. The lady in question here is called Via, and she has a team of 200 people behind her, but she's very natural, she's very goofy, and in Singles Day 2018, that's 11/11, Double 11 also known as, she sold 48 million euros worth of goods in one day through live streams. So it's pretty effective. Now, the thing about this is it's completely interactive. People are sending messages, she's goofing up, she's putting her makeup on. So there's an element of trust, there's an element that you know her, you can interact with her. And this is very much, at the moment, where e-commerce is in the Chinese market. But something which is growing more and more is something called social commerce. Whereas e-commerce is usually concentrating on the product, the commodity itself, social commerce is people-centered. And how it works is that usually through WeChat, users will have up to over 100 different user groups, like you have WeChat groups, WhatsApp groups. And in each group, it could be your apartment block, it could be your kids' daycare's parents group, or whatever. And as I said, people usually have around 100 different groups that they're checking daily. It's just the passing of information in those groups. And if you do it strategically, you can give a link, for example, to your web shop, to Taobao, for example, and the leaders of that particular group, and we're talking about consumers here, we're talking about normal people, and the term KOCs is becoming more and more common, not key opinion leaders, but key opinion consumers. And the great thing about this from both sides is that we're talking about trust here. They're breaking down the consumer-producer relationship. It's somebody that you know, you literally know. You can see them probably on a daily basis. And if they're recommending something, you know, what more do you need? And this is how we're trusting more and more as we go into the future. Not relying on experts, not relying on producers, but relying more on our friends and our neighbors. So it's bringing power back to the consumers. It's kind of like a crowdsourcing in a way. As a provider, this is something that's very, very cost effective. Through 10 links strategically placed and an avalanche effect, you can get conversion rates of 20 to 25%. 20 to 25% of people who visit the link end up buying it because it has that trust and community with it. So I really see that this trust is something that is, if we talk about smart data, really the future. Thank you.